Welcome back to the NutriPsych podcast. My name is Helen and I'm a nutrition consultant specializing in helping women stop yo-yo dieting, emotional eating, and binge eating. And today we are wrapping up this month's theme of using physical and mental nourishment to combat emotional eating. We are talking all about how you can combat stress eating naturally. You know, stress is everywhere these days. We feel it when we wake up, when things happen during the day, and we even take it to bed with us. It's chronic, and it's common. Some of my clients even told me that if they weren't feeling stressed at any one time, they felt that they weren't working hard enough. I mean, stress is necessary sometimes. Stress saves our lives. In dangerous situations, like when there's a car about to hit you, your natural fight-or-flight response is activated and prompts you to run. It's supposed to help us escape injuries or death in an emergency, and then return to normal after the situation is over. That adrenaline hit is what's needed in the moment to alert you to either fight for your life or escape, flight. However, the stress response can sometimes go a little overboard. But in today's modern society, it's rare that there are imminent dangers that need this fight-or-flight response all the time. And when stress becomes chronic, and chronic stress is not great for your health. And when we're stressed, our body reacts in a couple of ways. One is by releasing the stress hormone cortisol. You've probably heard of this main stress hormone cortisol. It's released from your adrenal glands in response to stress. It's also normal for it to be higher in the morning to get you going, and slowly fades throughout the day so you can sleep. Chronically elevated levels of cortisol are associated with belly fat, insomnia, impaired cognitive function, high blood pressure, high blood sugar, and even lowers immunity. And one form of emotional eating is stress eating. It's not just a lack of willpower. There are chemical and biological processes that drive us to overeat when we are under a lot of stress. In previous episodes, we have covered emotional eating in general. Stress eating for some people may look like constantly reaching for food as a distraction, or simply needing the chewing sensation, crunchy textures. For some people, it's a relief, a source of happiness. It feels like indulgence. The stress hormone we just mentioned, cortisol, can ramp up your appetite and make you crave greasy food, sugary food, caffeine, quick energy foods, because your body thinks it needs fuel to fight whatever threat is causing the stress. Because the increased level of cortisol is a physiological response, the body thinks there's threat, but in reality it's just day-to-day life. That's why stress eating isn't just a lack of willpower. The good news is, now that you know it's physiological, this can easily be alleviated with simple lifestyle changes that lower cortisol. There are a few known dietary factors contributing to high cortisol levels. For example, too much caffeine can make you anxious and jittery. If that's the case, cut back on the amount of caffeine, especially in the afternoon and evening. Also, being dehydrated increases cortisol. Make sure you're drinking enough water every day. Don't wait till you're thirsty because when you feel the thirst, you're already slightly dehydrated. In recent years, more and more research is showing us that prebiotics and probiotics help us improve mood and reduce stress, because there's a strong connection between the gut and the brain. Therefore, taking care of our good gut bacteria is important. Fermented foods like kimchi, yogurt, and fiber-rich foods, these are all great sources of prebiotics and probiotics. It's not just food. There are other things that you can do to lower cortisol. If mindfulness is your thing, do some grounding exercises. It helps you forget about your day-to-day stresses and focus on the present moment. Exercise is an interesting one. Intense exercise increases cortisol levels temporarily, but it can also reduce overall cortisol levels. However, too much exercise can cause unnecessary stress for your body, so don't overdo it. That's why I like to emphasize and encourage moving your body in ways that you enjoy. Another factor that's so obvious and that people hear about all the time but always overlook is sleep. Getting adequate sleep is way too underrated. We probably all know sleep is beneficial and necessary, and we all seem to be too busy to sleep. Next, do something you enjoy. Kick back, relax, and have fun. I cannot stress this enough. Things like hanging out with friends, deep breathing, massages, and listening to relaxing music can all reduce cortisol. These are all pretty self-explanatory and obvious, but I just want to remind you to take time out of your busy schedule. Before we end this episode, I've prepared a surprise for you. Since we've been talking all about mental and physical nourishment this month, and we touched briefly on the topic of prebiotics and probiotics, I've created a chocolate pudding recipe for you. It incorporates antioxidant properties. It's a source of fiber, healthy fats, prebiotics, and contains less sugar than your store-bought version. If you head to the show notes, I've also included this bonus chocolate recipe using simple ingredients, high fiber, and prebiotics that can help you reduce stress. So make sure you head to helenwong.co.uk/lower stress hormone, all in one word. Remember, stress eating, emotional eating are the results of emotional hunger, not physical hunger. If you're having trouble distinguishing between the two, make sure you listen back to the episode about how to differentiate between emotional and physical hunger, which was released a few weeks ago. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Now head to the show notes to grab that recipe. Once again, it's helenwong.co.uk/lower stress hormone, all in one word. Thanks so much for tuning in today. Dive into the show notes for this episode at helenwong.co.uk/nutrition resources. If you've enjoyed this episode of the NutriPsych podcast, I invite you to check out the Stop Binge Eating Program, which gives you access to a proven step-by-step roadmap with key strategies and skills that guide you from struggling with yo-yo dieting, emotional eating, and binge eating to achieving permanent weight loss. Check out the Stop Binge Eating Program at helenwong.co.uk/SBEP.